Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, China says the ASEAN group of nations should serve as an anchor for regional and global peace and development. The U.S. has completed an 11th round of strikes on Iran, as Tehran warns Washington against striking nuclear facilities. A forum has explored China's economic policies and opportunities and what they offer the Macau region. In business, China's making moves to boost cross-border trade over the next 5 years. In sports, Chinese shooters have set a world record at the ISSF World Cup. In culture and entertainment, China's 2026 box office has already crossed the 20 billion yuan mark. Now checking the day's top stories. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang says the country and ASEAN should be the anchor for regional and global peace and development. He made the remarks in his speech at the China-ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting in Manila. Ryan Meltzer has more.
Ever since Foreign Minister Wang touched down yesterday, he's had a non-stop agenda of bilateral meetings as well as the ASEAN-China meeting. Started with meetings with the ASEAN Secretary General, meetings with India's Foreign Minister, and others today as well, including with Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, and with Philippines Foreign Minister. But the morning began with the ASEAN-China meeting where the two parties reiterated their commitment to deepening ties and broadening cooperation in a number of areas and upholding peace and security within the region, and also seeking ways to increase the prosperity of their people. And if anything, the recent the war in Iran and the implications of that for the region, as well as last year's imposition of hefty tariffs on the countries of this region by the U.S., have drawn ASEAN and China closer together, has underlined the importance of this bilateral relationship, of their trade deals and of their strategic partnerships and so on. So there's no doubt that this meeting today is just reiterating the commitment of both sides, both China and ASEAN, to continue to deepen. Both parties will also look to expand ties in areas that the war in Iran has exposed the kind of weaknesses in the region in terms of supply chains, in terms of energy supplies. And we know, of course, that China is very, very strong in renewable energy and so on, and that's an area in which this region can benefit. But as well today, the other highlights were these bilateral meetings. Particularly, we were waiting to see what the atmosphere was like when Wang Yi met with his counterpart from the Philippines, given the flare-up of this incident that occurred in the South China Sea earlier this week and the heightened tensions between the countries. But actually, the interaction between the foreign ministers, certainly in the public part of this meeting, was very affable. It seemed very warm. It was quite surprising how relaxed they seemed in each other's company. Unfortunately, all the media were ushered out of the room before they gave any remarks or they had any discussions. There were no opening remarks that were open to the public.
That was Ryan Meltzer reporting. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi says China stands ready to strengthen cooperation with ASEAN and accelerate consultations with it on a code of conduct in the South China Sea. Wu Haojun has more.
Foreign Minister Wang Yi made the remarks in his meeting with ASEAN Secretary General Cao Kim-hun in Manila on Tuesday. Wang Yi said China has always upheld the equality of all nations and has pursued a policy of good neighborliness and friendship. On the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia, China supports ASEAN community building and its pursuit of unity and self-strengthening. This year also marks the 5th anniversary of the China-ASEAN Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Wang Yi believes it is a pivotal year in bridging past achievements and future cooperation. He hailed East Asia's prosperity and stability amid profound changes and urged all parties to cherish this hard-won situation. He called for safeguarding stability in East Asia, deepening mutual trust, and defending global South interests. He noted China's initiative in Shanghai to boost the Global South capacity in artificial intelligence and welcomed ASEAN's participation. Wang Yi described the South China Sea as a shared home for countries in the region, and that issues concerning it should not become a stumbling block to China-ASEAN relations. He says China is ready to work with ASEAN to remove disruptive factors, speed up consultations on a code of conduct in the South China Sea, and jointly build a new narrative of peace, stability, cooperation, and friendship. Certain elements within the Philippine military and maritime law enforcement have deliberately provoked incidents in the South China Sea. Their aim, he said, is to serve the interests of outside forces. These actions undermine the improvement of China-Philippines ties and broader peace and stability in the region. The Chinese foreign minister reiterated the initiative on South China Sea issues must stay firmly in the hands of countries in the region. ASEAN Secretary General Cao Kim-hun spoke highly of ASEAN-China relations and the outcomes of their practical cooperation. ASEAN looks forward to closer strategic alignment with China. He added ASEAN endorses the dual-track approach, supports acceleration of consultations on the Code of Conduct, and strives to turn the South China Sea into a sea of peace, cooperation, and friendship. He said ASEAN will work with China to uphold regional peace and stability and make important contributions to development and prosperity in the Asia-Pacific.
That was Wu Haojun reporting. China's boosted people-to-people exchanges with ASEAN through the rollout of a multiple entry visa for business personnel from ASEAN members. Trade between the two sides last year exceeded $1 trillion. Wang Mengjie has more on the milestone in bilateral ties.
This year marks the 5th anniversary of the establishment of the China-ASEAN Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. How does China describe the relationship? On Monday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said ASEAN is China's friendly and close neighbor, an important cooperation partner, and a priority in its neighborhood diplomacy. Trade data also underscores the strength of the relationship, with China and ASEAN remaining each other's largest trading partners for 6 consecutive years. Data from China's General Administration of Customs shows bilateral trade rose over 18% year-on-year to more than $4 trillion, or $598 billion in the first half of 2026, driven by deeper supply chain integration. Growth accelerated in the second quarter, with trade increasing more than 20% to over $2 trillion, marking the 10th consecutive quarter of expansion in bilateral trade. The impressive trade data is also reflected in the increased cargo volume from China to ASEAN countries. Take Qingdao Port in East China's Shandong province as example. It's convenient, stable, and cost-effective. Serial combined transport model allowed more and more products from inland factories to be gathered at Qingdao Port from being shipped overseas. Behind smooth logistics is a continued policy dividend brought by the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP. The agreement has deepened the production and supply chain cooperation between China and Southeast Asia, with more than 50 direct cargo shipping routes now linking Qingdao Port with ASEAN countries. And a recent survey by the Global Times Institute found that cooperation outcomes between China and ASEAN have been well received. 99% of respondents believe China and ASEAN should deepen cooperation in relevant areas. And 56% believe this deepening should be in economic and trade cooperation and investment. 85% of the respondents say they're looking forward to the outcomes of this year's China-ASEAN economic and trade cooperation.
That was Wang Mengjie reporting. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi says the country is ready to deepen cooperation with Malaysia and jointly elevate bilateral relations. He made the remarks while meeting Malaysian Foreign Minister Muhammad Hassan in Manila. Wang said China and other ASEAN members remain committed to the early conclusion of consultations on the Code of Conduct in the South China Sea. He said the early conclusion of consultations will help safeguard peace and stability in the region. The Malaysian Foreign Minister reaffirmed his country's commitment to the One China policy and expressed readiness to advance cooperation with China. He expressed hope for an early conclusion of the Code of Conduct to jointly safeguard regional peace and stability. Meantime, the Chinese Foreign Minister also met his Australian counterpart, Penny Wang. Wang said China is ready to enhance exchanges and expand cooperation with Australia, and that it hopes Australia upholds the principles of non-interference in other countries' internal affairs. The Australian Foreign Minister reaffirmed her country's adherence to the One China policy, saying her country is ready to advance cooperation with China. Chinese air conditioners and cooling gadgets are gaining popularity in Cambodia as extreme heat hits the country. At a Phnom Penh store, a Greece salesperson Lim Moi Lee says their energy-efficient units cool rooms fast. After-sales teams respond within 15 minutes.
Our products consume less energy and can cool the room down in a very short time after they are turned on. When consumers require on-site repair service, our team will arrive within 15 minutes to examine the issue and then schedule a repair appointment with them.
While Gree air conditioners meet household demands, other Chinese brands focus on individuals to provide more subtle help. Portable handheld fans, neck-hanging fans, cooling sprays, and ice neckbands are helping people to stay cool amid the intense heat. Salesperson Ngun Sivaling says they have more stock on order from China.
They sell so good that they're out of stock now. We are ordering more from China and trying to ship them to Cambodia quickly. The prices generally are around $10, so everyone can afford them.
Chinese brands see strong growth potential and are planning to introduce custom models for locals and businesses. Coming up, Tehran warns Washington against striking Iran's nuclear facilities.
A Chinese company stepped in to save British steel when few others would. 6 years later, the UK government stripped it of control. Was this a commercial decision or another sign that geopolitics is rewriting the rules of global investment? What comes next? Who ultimately stands to pay the biggest price? More importantly, what could cases like this mean for the future of global investment? Join us for an in-depth discussion of the British steel nationalization saga on this week's Chat Lounge, wherever you listen to podcasts and on CGTN Radio.
12 minutes past the hour. The U.S. Central Command says it's completed an 11th day of strikes on Iran. The attacks targeted Iranian military operations centers, maritime capabilities, aircraft hangars, drone storage facilities, and military logistics infrastructure. The operations aim to further degrade Iran's ability to threaten commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. says Iran's attacked more than 30 commercial vessels transiting the strait. President Donald Trump says Washington has no interest in holding talks with Iran until Tehran's ready to meet in a meaningful way. He also warned that U.S. forces would soon strike Iran's Pickaxe Mountain nuclear facility. Iran has launched strikes on U.S. military targets in regional countries, including Kuwait, Jordan, and Bahrain. Its main military command warns that if the U.S. attacks Iran's nuclear and other sensitive sites, Tehran will expand its strikes the targets and target the interests of the U.S. and its allies across the region. Saper Saremi has more from Tehran.
There was a statement from the IRGC regarding attacks on Bahrain. Let me read that to you. Relying on Almighty God, IRGC, in continuation of Operation Nas II, targeted and destroyed central data infrastructure of American company Amazon in Bahrain with several cruise missiles. So this is the most important thing that has happened, because U.S. bombed Iran, mostly in southern parts in the past few days, but recently cities like Tabriz in northwestern Iran and also Shiraz in south of Iran, these two cities have also been attacked. But most hits took place in southern parts near the shore of the Persian Gulf. And Iran has responded by retaliating, by targeting countries like Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan. According to reports, a desalination facility and power plants also caught on fire in Kuwait. Attended Foreign Ministry weekly press briefing, and the spokesperson said some mediation has been offered by some countries. But when he was asked on more details regarding any diplomatic activity, he preferred not to give us any more details. So for now, the situation is very fragile. The Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf is charged. Practically, we don't see any utility in the memorandum of understanding, and many experts consider it dead. The difference between this round of hostilities and the 12-day war and the 40-day war is that Tehran has not been targeted yet. So we have to wait and see what will happen in coming hours and what kind of reaction will the IRGC show?
That was Saper Saremi reporting. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has faced questions and protests over the U.S. war on Iran during a Senate hearing. He says the war has cost $37.5 billion since it began in February, and that $87 billion more are required. Protesters interrupted Hegseth's opening remarks several times. The hearing comes just days after the Pentagon announced the deaths of 3 more American service members, bringing the total number to 17. More than 100 others have been injured since early July. Walter Morris has more in Washington, D.C.
Top Trump administration officials say the United States war with Iran has cost $37.5 billion so far. And Tuesday, they went to Capitol Hill to ask lawmakers for more money to fund the conflict. U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dan Kane testified before the Senate Appropriations Committee Tuesday afternoon. The Trump administration is asking Congress for another $80 billion. The war is going into its 5th month, and the additional money will reportedly be used to replenish the U.S. military's weapons stockpile. This is the first time top military officials have answered questions from lawmakers since the conflict reignited earlier this month. During his remarks, Hegseth told the committee that the U.S. military requires a generational investment, and he was challenged by members of both parties over how the administration is handling the war.
Iran has been firing at U.S. military bases in the region and its ships for the last week. How is it possible, if their capabilities were, quote, functionally destroyed?
Senator, Iran is at the weakest point militarily it has ever been in the past decade, certainly maybe in 47 years, as they've gathered effectively a terror army.
Do we have the ability to destroy whatever is underneath Pickaxe Mountain?
Senator, a lot of our capabilities are classified, but if anybody in the world can reach anything on God's green earth, it's the United States military, the most powerful military in the world. It's all about options and trade-offs.
And at what point do you stop asking Americans to foot the bill for a war they don't support on top of an inflated budget request and billions in reconciliation funds that you still haven't spent?
Well, Senator, I obviously don't agree with your characterization of that.
I appreciate that, but you didn't ask. But I want you to answer my question. I know you don't agree with my characterization. I don't agree with yours either.
And Tuesday, a Pentagon spokesman revealed on social media that nearly 100 U.S. service members have been injured since July 7th, but 96% have returned to active duty. Roughly 430 U.S. troops have been injured since the conflict began.
That was Walter Morris reporting. U.S. President Donald Trump has met with Lebanese President Joseph Aoun at the White House. It's the first visit by a Lebanese president in 17 years. Trump announced after the meeting that he's permitting all U.S. airline carriers to fly directly to Lebanon. Aoun's office says he stressed that a full Israeli withdrawal from Lebanese territory is essential to stability. Jagriti Devi has more from Washington, D.C.
A handshake for Joseph Aoun, the first Lebanese president to visit the White House in 17 years, and a show of support for Lebanon.
It's been a very badly treated place and country, and we're going to have it properly treated and treated with respect that it deserves.
After the warm welcome, it was down to business. Aoun's agenda: disarming Hezbollah and ensuring the militant group and Israel withdraw from southern Lebanon, the terms of the US-brokered framework deal. But the first phase is already facing its first hurdle. Hours before Presidents Trump and Aoun's White House meeting, the Lebanese army claimed Israeli troops opened fire near their units, deployed in a so-called pilot zone, the southern Lebanese town of Zawtar al-Gharbiyah, recently vacated by Israeli soldiers. President Aoun hopes the US will use its leverage rail to make sure it stays out of southern Lebanon. Mr. Trump says he'll look into what's happening in pilot zones.
That was Jagriti Devi reporting. Lebanon's begun testing these pilot zones in the south under a U.S.-brokered security framework. Residents in 3 villages are cautiously rebuilding their lives while the Lebanese army advances deployments wary of Israeli fire. The effort marks a symbolic bid to reassert state authority despite the devastation. Sarah Aldersi has more.
In frozen southern Lebanon, Bashar al-Shadi reopened his business month after the war, renting a modest shop to serve returning residents. His original store, like much of the village's infrastructure, was destroyed in the fighting. The move is a cautious step toward normalcy in a community still shadowed by Israeli violations of a shaky ceasefire. Thrown along with Srifa and Zawtar al-Gharbiya was designated a pilot zone under a U.S. brokered security framework, marking Lebanon's effort to reassert state authority.
We, the villagers, have returned, and residents have begun reopening their businesses. My butcher shop was completely destroyed. I rebuilt it from scratch, despite all the pain we're going through. We pulled all the equipment out from under the rubble. We have to get back on our feet.
In neighboring Srifa, residents are likewise struggling to restore daily routines. Their village, however, remains heavily scarred, with homes and infrastructure reduced to rubble by the war.
Praise be to God, Srifa is fine now. There's nothing wrong with it, but there are strikes in the surrounding areas and we can hear them. There are people there. As you can see, we've been working for over a month. It's not as people say, we are the ones bringing it back to life.
They say it's a pilot zone, but it isn't. The residents live normal lives in those zones. We are here today, thanks to the blood of the martyrs.
Since the June ceasefire, Srifa has remained free of security incidents, yet the heavy destruction still shapes daily life for its residents.
We affirmed that in Srifa yesterday, the day before yesterday, and when we returned on June the 16th, there was no enemy occupation. The Lebanese army has been present in the village for a year. It was subjected to a brutal attack, and the destruction was extensive, affecting infrastructure, homes and businesses, which form the backbone of the village's economy.
On Tuesday, Lebanese army units deployed to Zawtar al-Gharbiya in Nabatia district, marking the launch of the first phase of pilot zones under the tripartite agreement. The army reported that its forces came under Israeli fire during the operation, confirming they returned fire and implemented measures to protect personnel while ensuring the mission's continuation.
This is Zara Al-Derzi reporting. Coming up, a forum's explored China's economic and policy opportunities for the Macau region.
Pulse Plus, a selection of the best podcasts in China, covering history, customs, music, literature, and in-depth dialogues. Find your way to a wealth of Chinese culture and thinking, all on Pulse Plus.
23 past now. Over 150 participants from various sectors across Macau have attended the second Ask China Forum. The event focused on China's economic roadmap through the 15th five-year plan and the opportunities it presents for Macau's future development. Xu Hua has more.
The second Ask China Forum in Macau sparked heated discussions on how the 15th five-year plan will shape opportunities for global investors and Macau's own role. The conversation is especially timely, just as the International Monetary Fund lowers 2026 global growth to 3%, but upgrades China's to 4.6%.
For the international stakeholders watching both here in the hall and across the globe, understanding the direction of these national economic policies is not just about keeping pace. It is absolutely essential for our long-term strategic planning.
Macau's third five-year plan also took center stage. Speakers stressed the need to align the local blueprint closely with the country's 15th five-year plan while taking Macau's own reality into account.
Macau's great strength has never been its size, but its ability to connect people, ideas, and opportunity. For centuries, Macau has connected China to the world. In the years ahead, Macau can help connect the world to China's future.
For some attendees, the forum was more than just a policy discussion. It was a chance to bridge divides and foster mutual understanding.
I find it very meaningful that Macau is hosting this event as also a demonstration of the need for people to understand better each other's points of view.
Well, it's a great timing. The public consultation has just been concluded. So hopefully, and I wish that some of the comments that came out today will be taken into consideration while finalizing the draft of the 5-year plan.
Participants say the 15th five-year plan offers Macau an opportunity to leverage one country, two systems, reinforce its position in the Greater Bay Area, and boost its international standing.
That was Xu Hua in Macau. The UN World Food Programme's warning of a worsening hunger emergency in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, driven by the Ebola outbreak. It says 1.7 million people urgently need food assistance, with 500,000 on the brink of starvation. The epidemic in the northeast has shut trade routes and compounded a crisis fueled by years of conflict and displacement. Chris Okamringa has more from Kinshasa.
Thousands of families displaced by conflict in eastern DRC have been relying on rations from the World Food Programme. They had to flee from clashes between government forces and M23 rebels, which started in 2021. Many of them are now facing another crisis, the Ebola outbreak. International donors have mobilized more than $900 million to tackle the Ebola outbreak, but the disease continues to spread rapidly, outpacing the response and resulting in more hardships.
Ebola has caused widespread hunger here. The outbreak has disrupted many activities. We used to get food from Uganda, but that road has been closed because of the disease.
The rare Bundibujo strain of Ebola is adding more survival stress in DRC's conflict-affected provinces, worsening an already dire situation.
Well, there's 1.7 million people in exactly the same region of Ebola in urgent need of food assistance. 500,000 people in IPC level 4, which is one small step below starvation and mortality due to lack of food. So really critical levels. And it's what's resulting from the hunger and Ebola combined. It's increased tension in communities.
Young people who have lost parents to Ebola are now relying on aid agencies for critical support.
Whole family, affected by some people who have died, but some others who have been contaminated, who that the health sector, is trying to do their best. And today we have a lot of actors, where they do that, they establish the ETCs, they also establish some areas for the young children, to be able to feed them. I have witnessed that.
Experts say containing the current Ebola outbreak requires a coordinated response that combines healthcare, logistics, and food assistance.
The Ebola outbreak has come at a time when the DRC is already facing a serious humanitarian crisis. Authorities say more than 26 million people are facing hunger, driven by decades of conflict, displacement, and disease outbreaks. The epidemic has only worsened the situation for people in the east and the northeast of the country.
That was Chris Okamringa reporting. The UN says it's deeply saddened that 144 people are dead or missing after a maritime accident off Mauritania last week. With national authorities and humanitarian partners, the UN Refugee Agency carried out 3 rescue operations, safely bringing 387 people to shore. UN spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric warns that the West Africa to Canary Islands route remains one of the world's deadliest migration corridors.
It's a stark reminder that despite sustained efforts by various partners to save lives, the route from West Africa towards the Canary Islands is one of the world's deadliest mixed movement corridors, with refugees and migrants attempting to reach Europe facing the highest risk.
Dujarric stressed that efforts must go beyond rescues and focus on real alternatives to dangerous sea crossings, including faster access to legal pathways, expanded labor opportunities, and more educational programs to prevent further tragedies on this deadly route. We're at 29 past the hour. Beijing will be getting thunder showers overnight and through tomorrow. Lows 22 and it's up to 29 on Thursday. Shanghai will see a light rain tonight, becoming overcast tomorrow, a low of 27 and a high of 35. Chongqing's clear overnight, sunny tomorrow, a low of 30, the high is 41 degrees. Nanchang will see thunder showers through tomorrow with a low of 27 and a high of 34. Lhasa is getting showers tonight, easing to light rain tomorrow, a low of 12 degrees and a high of 23 for Thursday. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, China says the ASEAN group of nations should help to serve as an anchor for regional and global peace and development. The U.S. has completed an 11th round of strikes on Iran as Tehran warns Washington against striking nuclear facilities. And the forum has explored China's economic policies and opportunities and what they offer the Macau region. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
The transition to a greener future is no longer a distant goal. It's happening now. In power plants, factories, farms, and cities across China. As the world grapples with climate change, energy security, and the growing demand for electricity, China is searching for new ways to cut emissions while keeping its economy moving. Across the country, our reporters visit renewable energy hubs, industrial centers, and agricultural communities to see what that transformation looks like in practice. Through first-hand stories and on-the-ground reporting, we explore the opportunities, the challenges, and the ideas shaping China's green transition. Listen to China's Green Code, Rewriting the Rules of Growth, a special series from Climate Watch, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Wednesday. Still to come. In business, China's making moves to boost cross-border trade over the next 5 years. In sports, Chinese shooters have set a world record at the ISSF World Cup. In culture and entertainment, China's 2026 box office has already crossed the 20 billion yuan mark. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTN Radio. You're also welcome to subscribe to our Substack newsletter Beyond Beijing for the world's biggest stories, along with sharp insights and exclusive analysis. But first, with a check of the day's headlines, here's Tianyu.
Thank you, Shane. Chinese President Xi Jinping has urged efforts to carry out the basic task of fostering virtue through education and break new ground in the high-quality development of the country's basic education. He made the remarks in an instruction on work related to basic education. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang says the country and ASEAN should be the anchor for regional and global peace and development. He made the remarks in his speech at the China-ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting in Manila. Wang said mutual respect and mutual trust are the basis for good neighborliness, while sincerity is crucial for cooperation. He added that mutual benefit is the foundation for outcomes and that openness and inclusiveness are key to prosperity. Wang also cited the concept of building a community with a shared future for humanity and the 4 global initiatives proposed by China. He said the goal is to build a more just and equitable global governance system. The minister also said China will continue to work with ASEAN on the principles of peace, development, and cooperation to benefit the people in the region and respond to emerging challenges with stronger solidarity. A Chinese mainland spokesperson has slammed the Democratic Progressive Party authorities in Taiwan for echoing the Philippines' provocations over a Chinese reef in the South China Sea. The island's foreign affairs authorities condemned what they called the mainland's use of force to harm people following the Philippines' provocations and attacks on Chinese law enforcement officers at the reef. State Council Taiwan Affairs Office spokesperson Zhang Han says the DPP authorities have abandoned their national stance by echoing external forces to smear the Chinese mainland. Meantime, Zhang also said the exchanges and cooperation across the Taiwan Strait and the mutually beneficial outcomes they bring are unstoppable.
In the first half of 2026, the trade volume between the two sides of the Taiwan Strait reached $185 billion. Among this, the mainland imported $133.1 billion from Taiwan, with a year-on-year growth rate of 22.5%, and the mainland exported $51.9 billion to Taiwan, with a year-on-year growth rate of 32.9%. This fully demonstrates that the industrial structures of both sides complement each other, and the cooperation prospects are broad. Strengthening economic and trade cooperation and deepening the integration of the economies are in line with the common interests of the people and enterprises on both sides and are also the result of the joint effect of economic laws and market principles. The exchanges and cooperation between the two sides, as well as mutual benefit and win-win outcomes, are unstoppable by anyone.
The remarks came after the DPP authority said it no longer relies on what it called the single market of China and has turned to other markets. China has unveiled a new 5-year health plan aiming to raise average life expectancy to 80 years by 2030, up from 79.25 in 2025, while curbing the rise of major chronic diseases. Health Minister Lei Hai-Chao says chronic conditions now affect 450 million people and account for nearly 90% of all deaths, driven by sedentary lifestyles, poor diets, smoking, and excessive drinking. To tackle this, the plan sets a target to cut the smoking rate among those aged 15 and above to 20%. It also aims to expand infertility treatment coverage, including IVF, promote pain relief services during childbirth, and boost nursery enrollment for children under 3 by 6 percentage points. The plan calls for establishing 15-minute primary healthcare circles. It also accelerates approvals for innovative drugs, promotes cell and gene therapy research, and leverages artificial intelligence across the pharmaceutical industry. Internationally, China will deepen medical aid missions and establish more China-Africa health cooperation centers. And finally, the National Health Commission says China has distributed childcare subsidies for over 25 million babies this year. Launched in 2025, the program provides 300 yuan per month for each child under 3. Central government funds reached nearly 100 billion yuan this year. The policy aims to address population decline and aging. Birth numbers rose in 2025 for the first time since 2017, and experts are calling for further improvements to support sustainable development.
Thank you very much. That's Tianyu with headlines. And you're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in business, China's making moves to boost cross-border trade over the next 5 years.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
37 past and turning to business. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed mixed on Wednesday. The Shanghai Composite was up slightly. The Shenzhen component lost around 1.4%. Oil and gas exploration and precious metal shares led the gainers. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index declined almost 1%. Japan's Nikkei dropped around 0.2%. Chinese customs authorities say they'll boost institutional innovation and tech empowerment to facilitate cross-border trade in the next 5 years. Sun Meijun is the Minister of the General Administration of Customs.
In the coming 5 years, we will stick to the dual driver of institutional innovation plus tech empowerment and work to ensure both fast clearance and good management. Our effort will focus on 3 areas, that is, optimizing the regulator framework, boosting the regulatory efficacy, and making our regulatory model even smarter.
New measures include upgrading port infrastructure and further improving existing opening up platforms, such as the Hainan Free Trade Port. The minister also says China's foreign trade got off to a good start in the first half of the year. Last week, China reported that foreign trade had surged nearly 17% to around $3.7 trillion from January to June. Meanwhile, the country has become a major trading partner for over 160 countries and regions. Beijing's extended its zero tariff policy to 63 countries, including all diplomatic partners in Africa. And for more on customs innovation, Lily Liu spoke with Zhou Mi, a senior research fellow at the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation.
Against the backdrop of the 15th five-year plan, AI, big data, smart equipment will be widely deployed in customs work. So what core application scenarios are running now, and where does China's AI-powered customs development stand globally?
Well, I think that China's practices are leading the world in the ways of the trade facilitation. The trade facilitation is very important for the increase and the stabilities of the import and export. So we can use the technology to improve the efficiency in a better way. You know, China is the #1 trading country in the world. So we have so many goods to deal with. So we must speed up the clearance of the customs in a better way. And I would also argue that China is also the largest country who are dealing with the e-commerce. So based on this real data and information, I think that we are trying to introduce the more technology in dealing with such kind of very complicated data set. And based on that, we are providing our institution regulations to protect that every business should be done in a better way.
And also, what does more efficient customs clearance mean for global businesses, especially small companies?
Well, better clearance of the customs means that we can do the things in a much quicker frequency. I think that for the small and medium-sized enterprises, we suffered a lot for insufficient and unstable abilities for dealing with different kind of resources. If we are able to use the limited resources in a much faster frequencies, we can make the better use of our limited resources. And it is also important for the companies who want to explore a new market in China, so they can try to discover different kind of areas or market in China. And I think that the faster they are able to provide the products, the stronger their abilities in dealing with such kind of separate markets in China, and it's well helpful for them to have a better profitability.
And what new layouts will modernized customs roll out to boost trade connectivity with Global South and Belt and Road economies?
Well, we have several kind of mechanisms and plans to support them to have a capability buildings. So based on the free trade agreements, we are able to deal with that in the mechanical and mechanism and institutional ways. And based on the interconnections, we are trying to share our experiences of the technology and also equipment to improve their abilities in such a digital world in the new area. And we also are trying to support the collectively cooperation based on the small and the medium-sized enterprises to have a better scale of economies in the global trade. I think that all these things are related to our willingness to develop with the Global South at the same time.
I was Senior Research Fellow Zhou Mi talking about China's innovation and tech in the customs sector. Chinese authorities say the country's urban employment remained generally stable in the first half of the year, with over 6.9 million new jobs created. According to the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security, the number of new urban jobs was unchanged from the previous period last year, while the average surveyed urban unemployment rate stood at around 5.2%. The country issued 3.6 billion yuan in unemployment insurance subsidies to help stabilize employment. That's around 532 million US dollars. The International Advanced Air Mobility Expo 2026 is underway at the National Exhibition and Convention Center in Shanghai. More than 400 exhibitors from China and abroad are attending the event. It'll showcase the latest technologies and applications across the low-altitude economy. The event will highlight the full industry chain, including aircraft manufacturing, drones, and advanced materials. The world's first consumer-grade wing-in-ground craft, a type of vehicle that flies close to the surface of water or the ground, has made its debut in the eastern Chinese city of Suzhou. It's targeting overseas markets and marks a significant step forward for China's smart innovations on the global stage. Chen Tong reports.
It's not a plane, and it's not a ship. This is the world's first consumer-grade wing-in-ground craft. That is to say, it's able to skim over the water. Between 30 and 80 centimeters above the water, its maximum speed can reach 85 kilometers per hour. This craft is developed by a domestic company. 90% of its business goes overseas, which is a major target market for this craft. No need for an airport or a special parking place. The company says besides transportation alone, there are other possibilities.
It can be used in some entertainment projects and luxury hotels, resorts, and yacht clubs. We think its usage scenario is very close to yachts.
According to Morgan Stanley, the global low-altitude economy market size will exceed $2 trillion by 2030, and China's patents in the low-altitude industry rank first worldwide, already accounting for 51% of the global total. He Jiangpeng has been exporting China's smart innovations such as humanoid robots for 5 years.
We've reached some dozens of intended orders in the United States. From observation, China's manufacturing industry is becoming stronger.
China's smart manufacturing exports have seen significant growth over the past few months. In the first quarter of this year, the added value of the equipment manufacturing industry rose by 6.2% year-on-year, contributing nearly 20% to the country's industrial growth. And innovative products such as Wang ground craft could propel that growth further.
That was Chen Tong reporting. China sent 9 satellites into orbit in a single mission. The rocket blasted off from a maritime launch platform in waters east of Shanghai, operated by the Taiwan Satellite Launch Center. The payload included 6 Dongpo satellites and Tianyi-49. The Dongpo satellites form an optical remote sensing constellation for agriculture and environmental monitoring. Tianyi-49 delivers observation services for mining and urban planning. The launch marked the 3rd mission of the Gravity 1 carrier rocket. Zhangjiajie in central China has become a popular destination for international visitors seeking relief from the heat in the height of summer, thanks to its cool climate and world-class mountain landscapes. The site holds added cinematic fame as it provided key visual inspiration for James Cameron's 2009 film Avatar. Tourists from Europe, Southeast Asia, and beyond are flocking to the mountainous area to enjoy the fresh mountain air and natural coolness.
We were able to go on the zip line and go down the slide, and you could see like a 360 view of the canyon.
And it was great actually for walks and everything. And I do think it could be a summer resort. I think it would be great. The temperatures are very regulated and the views are out of this world.
At an altitude of over 1,500 meters, Tianmen Mountain offers temperatures between 22 and 26 degrees Celsius, making it a natural air-conditioned retreat. Overseas visitors are walking the mountainside paths, gazing at the distant peaks, and immersing themselves in the breathtaking karst landscape to enjoy. The iconic Tianmen Cave and its steep 999-step staircase have become a must-visit attraction for international tourists. At the Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon Scenic Area, there are views of green mountains and clear streams. Visitors stroll along the paths, enjoying the gentle breeze of the mountains and the coolness of nature. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, Chinese shooters have set a world record at the ISSF World Cup.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
47 past the hour now, and turning to sports. Here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. China's reigning world champion set 2 world records to claim the 10-meter air pistol mixed team title as the ISSF World Cup got underway. Yao Qianxun and Hu Kai first broke the qualification record with 591 points before producing a winning score of 488.4 points in the final, surpassing the previous world mark. Compatriots Shen Yiyao and Bu Shuaihan finished second with 485.7 points to take silver, while South Korea secured the bronze medal. Yao and Hu had already collected 1 gold and 1 silver at earlier World Cup events this year under a revised format that now sends 4 teams into the final. Their latest victory further highlights China's strength in shooting ahead of the upcoming Asian Games. In badminton, China's Wang Hongyang produced one of the biggest upsets of the opening round at the BWF China Open in Changzhou. He rallied from a game down to defeat 3rd seed Anders Antonsen of Denmark and advanced to the men's singles round of 16. The world number 15 fought back from a difficult position in the deciding game, saving 3 match points before completing a dramatic comeback. Wang said the victory came after overcoming mental and physical challenges.
I think it's a very exciting and difficult match. My opponent is very strong, and it's a tough match every time I faced him, so I prepared myself for an extremely difficult match. But still, I had quite a number of obstacles mentally and physically, but I managed to motivate myself on court and overcame them.
In women's singles, Olympic champion Chen Yufei also battled back from a game down, defeating Japan's Natsuki Nidaira to secure her place in the round of 16. China has released its first national-level plan specifically focusing on building a stronger sports nation, outlining key goals for sports development during the 15th five-year plan period. The plan sets several targets for 2030, including increasing per capita sports facility space, raising the proportion of people who regularly participate in physical exercise to about 40%, and improving the rate of citizens with strong physical fitness to over 31%. It also aims for China to remain among the world's leading nations in terms of world championship achievements, while expanding the overall scale of the sports industry beyond 7 trillion yuan. Spain's World Cup celebrations continue with football fans gathering in Barcelona to take photos of the new mural honoring Ferran Torres, the hero of La Roja's 1-0 victory over Argentina in the final. Created by urban artist TV Boy, the artwork shows the 26-year-old winger kissing the World Cup trophy beneath the words "Making History." Torres scored a decisive goal to secure Spain's second world title and their first since 2010, helping the team become European and world champions. TV Boy said he created mural to celebrate Spain's victory and the values shown by the national team.
I started the mural at 2 p.m. and finished it around 6 p.m. I did simply for the joy of seeing Spain win. I love the match, I love the way they played and values they conveyed. And I thought Ferran Torres was the ideal choice, also because of his dedication and for scoring the winning goal.
The celebrations have spread across the country with around 2 million fans gathering in Madrid to welcome the newly crowned world champions. The summer transfer window continues to heat up with Chelsea and Barcelona making moves to strengthen their squads. Chelsea has completed the signing of England attacker Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa for a reported £117 million or $156.5 million, making him the most expensive British player in football history. The fee surpasses the £116 million Manchester City paid for Elliot Anderson earlier this month, though the Premier League record remains Liverpool's £125 million deal for Alexander Isak last year. Rogers, who turns 24 on Friday, has signed a 7-year contract at Chelsea after helping Aston Villa qualify for the UEFA Champions League. New manager Xabi Alonso hopes that the arrival will support his plans to rebuild the club into a global powerhouse. Meanwhile, Barcelona president Joan Laporta has confirmed that German forward Karim Adeyemi will be officially announced as the club's latest signing on Wednesday. The 24-year-old forward joins from Borussia Dortmund after scoring 36 goals in 146 appearances for the Bundesliga side. Adeyemi, who can play on the wing or through the middle, is expected to help fill the gap left by Robert Lewandowski following the expiration of his contract. The German international becomes Barcelona's second signing of the summer, following the arrival of England winger Anthony Gordon from Newcastle United.
All right, thank you very much. That's Yang Wang with sports. Coming up in culture and entertainment, China's 2026 box office has already crossed the 20 billion yuan mark.
Discover the realities and responses to our changing climate with Climate Watch. Uncover critical issues such as the Masai Mara's disrupted wildebeest migration and the drop in the Panama Canal's water levels. Delve into solutions for a sustainable future. Tune in to Climate Watch on your favorite podcast platform. Become more eco-conscious and take action to protect our planet.
We're at 53 past the hour. In culture and entertainment, China's film market continues to gain momentum, with this year's total box office revenue surpassing 20.4 billion yuan. That's roughly $3 billion. According to ticketing platform Maoyan, the summer movie season has also maintained strong growth. Since June 1st, ticket sales have exceeded 4.7 billion yuan and are expected to continue climbing through the end of August. Leading this year's box office chart are racing drama Pegasus 3, family film Dear You, and Stephen Chow's comedy Kung Fu Soccer, reflecting strong audience interest across a range of genres. With its heartfelt portrayal of family, Chinese film Dear You's captivated audiences at home. And now reaching international screens, the film is also striking a chord with viewers abroad. For more, Dong Shui spoke to Professor Zhang Long from the Communication University of China.
There is a saying in film industry that the more specific a story is, the more universal it becomes. So do you think that this film is a good example of that, and why?
Well, of course, it is a very good example. From this story, we can see the film crew has done a lot of work. They spend a lot of time making interviews and collecting family letters. We say 侨批 in the movie. And also we can see almost every detail of the story in this movie comes from the real letters. So in this case, we can also feel a sense of beauty, a sense of truth in the movie, because all of these details contribute to the authenticity of the movie storytelling. This movie actually provides us a kind of visual story, and from this story we can see that how struggling our ancestor or maybe our elder generation are struggling, are working. That is why it can resonate with a lot of audiences from different cultural backgrounds.
As the film reaches more international audiences, it also generates, very different discussions and debates around it. So in your opinion, how do audiences should, distinguish from the movie itself and all these debates and discussions surrounding it?
So usually we might think, for example, does this story appeal to me? So is the visual storytelling interesting or impressive? And does it carry some important positive values? So if we can give the answer yes to all of these three questions, it is likely that the movie itself might be a good one. So we can see from the movie, Dear You, it tells us a story about loyalty and love. It is impressive to us all. So I think this is a good story.
Now is Professor Zheng Wang from the Communication University of China talking about the universal appeal of Chinese film, Dear You. The 15th China Children's Theatre Festival is underway, with audiences enjoying a wide range of performances and family activities throughout the summer. This year marks the first time the festival's main venue has moved beyond Beijing, with Jiaxing serving as its new home. Events are also taking place in Beijing and sub-venues in Shenzhen, Wuhan, and Yulin, extending theatre experiences to families across the country. Running through the end of August, the festival features 39 productions by 25 children's theater companies from 4 countries and over 180 performances. The organizers say the event aims to make high-quality children's theater more accessible, while encouraging young audiences to engage with the performing arts. Since its launch in 2011, the China Children's Theatre Festival has grown into one of the country's leading children's arts events, welcoming hundreds of theater companies and productions from around the world. And Shanghai's Zhoushe Art Museum has launched 2 new exhibitions that bring together artistic traditions from East and West, offering visitors a journey through contemporary glass art and centuries-old Chinese porcelain. One exhibition, Glastress, the Flowing Carnival of Venice, marks the Shanghai debut of the internationally acclaimed Glastress project. Featuring works by contemporary artists from 19 countries, the exhibition explores themes including identity and cultural exchange through innovative glass creations inspired by Venice's renowned glassmaking tradition. We're at 57 past the hour. Beijing getting thunder showers overnight and through Thursday. The low is 22 and it's up to 29 tomorrow. Shanghai will see a light rain becoming overcast tomorrow, a low of 27 and a high of 35. Chongqing's getting clear skies overnight. Sunny tomorrow, a low of 30. The high is 41 degrees. Nanchang will see thunder showers tonight and tomorrow, a low of 27 and a high of 34. Laos is getting showers this evening, easing to light rain tomorrow, a low of 12 degrees and a high of 23. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will see a light rain tonight, moderate rain tomorrow, a low of 24 and a high of 29. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, China says the ASEAN group of nations should help to serve as an anchor for regional and global peace and development. And the U.S. has completed an 11th round of strikes on Iran as Tehran warns Washington against striking nuclear facilities. On behalf of the staff, Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
The best military commander is not he who fights 100 battles and wins every one of them. The best military strategy does not lead to the desiccation of the enemy's capital city. Decoding the Art of War will help you understand why there's no art in war and how Sun Tzu stayed undefeatable using the science of war, with fun stories and insightful breakdown of famous battles. Find Decoding the Art of War wherever you listen.
A poem for the Tibetan antelope.
the gentle spirit of the Qinghai Sea Zone Plateau, spoken by voices from across the world. Every spring, female antelopes migrate hundreds of miles to Zhuonai Lake to give birth, as we build gentle passages for their journey.
Hello, little Tibetan antelope. Eyes opening to the light for the very first time.
To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower.
So much wonder calls for so much courage. But have no fear. The way home is right there, waiting for you.
From the snows of Kowloon to the winds of Tangula, the wilderness will teach me to be strong.
But the call of life itself never ceases.
A train runs toward the horizon. A road stretches through the wilderness.
The bridge that soars through the clouds is no barrier across the land, but a gateway to where I truly belong.
Tibetan antelope's hoofprints loosen the soil, letting snow melt sink into the earth.
Human presence passes through,
but we've never walked this land alone.